Over the past few years, my team and I have spent over a couple million in spend on Facebook and Google to consistently scale brands to surpass 100K per month. And today I'm going to break down the exact creative strategy that's helped us make this possible and how you can actually copy the exact strategy to your own business as well. So if you're stuck at 10, 20, 30, 50, 80K per month and you want to surpass that 100K per month mark, use this video as a blueprint. And before we get into it, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mason Ashby, CEO/COO of Brez Marketing. I'm going to play a heavy proponent into pushing out content for this YouTube channel and giving you guys some valuable sauce that you can apply to your brand to bring it to that next level. Before we dive too deep into anything, we want to understand what other mistakes people are making and pretty much how to avoid them. The real reality is that a lot of brands are just kind of throwing random creatives at the wall, hoping that things stick with no real strategy or plan. They'll test random ads without a clear hypothesis. They'll test one or two at the same time with no system. Like it's just a hosh posh of an ad set essentially. They'll get too emotionally attached on the pretty on-brand creatives as well, rather than kind of focusing on what the numbers are telling us and making data-driven decisions. And then when they do find that little bit of success, they attempt at scaling and see no success and see a burnout and see a waste and spend and inconsistent results because they didn't build out that right foundation. I think the biggest thing that's helped us in terms of mindset with clients and ad accounts is just kind of changing your way of thinking from, rather than just like randomly testing things, kind of going into more of like a scientific mode, if you will, and start to test on a granular level. That means testing hooks individually, testing out angles and messaging, that vehicle that you're taking to get that message across, whether it be UGC videos, static creatives, testimonials, iPhone videos, whatever it may be, just finding the right vehicle for that messaging. Essentially just getting a lot more molecular with your testing in terms of ad creatives and messagings and angles. When you have no plan behind your testing and you're just kind of, as I mentioned, throwing stuff at the wall, you're not going to know exactly what's sticking, what your, let's say for example, what your winning hook is or what your winning creative vehicle is, and you're not going to be able to implement and scale out that specific vehicle to find more winners. You're literally just throwing shit together hoping that it works, and that is not the case at all. But now that you get why just winging creatives isn't going to cut it, the real question is, how do you actually test stuff properly without wasting a ton of money? The system that I touched on briefly that I'm about to show you is a system that we use for all of our clients, and it's been tested and it's been backed by millions in spend. And the goal is relatively simple, and that's to hyper segment and compartmentalize your creatives into different assets based on ad concepts. And essentially what this does is it isolates your variables of each creative and it prevents budget burn, as well as kind of like eliminating guesswork and preparing you to scale. And what I mean by preparing you to scale is it allows you to see what exactly is working and what you can use to as a good foundation to then scale out. Without clear segmentation or separation, you can't really tell which elements are driving your results and which ones are dragging you down. And when you try to scale, that turns into wasted budget. Literally think of you building a house when you don't have a good foundation and you start to throw up your support beams and your drywall, and it's literally just going to cave in on itself because there's no support, there's no strong foundation there. That's essentially what you want to think of your creative testing as, you finding a good foundation that you can then put those support beams up and the drywall and have the plumbers come in and insulation and all that stuff that I'm referring to as scaling. With that being said, let's stop guessing and start to implement exactly what I'm about to show you as we hop down into the iPad so I can kind of show you physically what I'm talking about. So when it comes to testing, you always want to start off by segmenting your business objectives by campaign. We'll dive more into what I mean by that in a few, but you want to start off with a campaign, make sure it's a CBO, and then from there kind of have your ad sets. These are pretty much going to be your creative concepts for that business objective. So creative concept 1, and then you're going to have all of your relative ads underneath those, at least having 3 within that ad set that pertain to that creative concept, and then so on and so forth. Let's say you have another ad set for that specific business objective. What I mean by business objective is essentially like, what's your goal? For example, are you looking to, let's say for jewelry, are you looking to sell rings with this specific campaign? Are you looking to sell or push out traffic on an offer that you have, whether it be like buy 2 rings, get 1 free? That would be a separate business objective. Are you looking to push out necklaces, that would be a separate business objective. So let's just say, for example, this specific campaign is like about rings. We're looking to push sales to rings. Now, at the ad set level is kind of where we would get to the nitty gritty with these creative concepts. And what I mean by creative concepts is that a specific creative vehicle that's going to allow you to understand what's working and what's not. Pretty much that vehicle that's pushing that messaging out that you can resonate with other people with and get more sales, essentially. So ad set, creative concept 1, let's say this one's UGC reviews. Then within this ad set of UGC reviews, you would have all of your UGC reviews that are relevant to rings within this ad set. And then you'll say that your next creative concept would be poster graphics. You know, like a lot of jewelry brands like to do those poster graphics of the product, like on a blank background and have a little bit of text on it. So that's exactly what this would look like. So boom. This is kind of like what is going to allow you to figure out what is working and what's not. If you're already running ads, which hopefully you are, and this is why you've clicked onto this video because you need to get a little more of a better creative system, testing system down. You're already spending in your ad account. You know that Facebook is going to prioritize. So you launch ads and you see that one ad always starts off with more spend than the other. That specific ad that got the most spend is what Facebook deems as like a winning creative in its eyes. All of the other creatives that aren't getting any spend aren't even worth Facebook's time, and you would honestly consider that a losing creative. So let's say we launch a CBO for rings and we have an ad set full of UGC reviews and poster graphics, and as soon as we launch it, we notice that ad 3 is getting the most spend. Say we got like a $200 budget on this CBO. Ad 3 on the first day of launching has like $125 in spend. That right there means that Facebook has pinpointed what it deems as a winner and is pushing the most spend to it because it believes it has the most potential to win as a creative. That's amazing, that's perfect. Now what you wanna do is start to scale that creative out. I mentioned earlier starting to get a little more molecular with things, hyper segment things out. And as far as you kind of segmenting out by ad set and creative concept, you can even get a lot more molecular with it and start to segment out for your ads. So let's say ad 3 has a hook of TikTok made me buy this and I'm not complaining type of hook. And then it has a body of like pretty much the person going over the review and how they felt about the whole purchasing experience with the specific brand. You want to start to test different hooks, but also maintain the same variables and test different variables at the same time. So let's say ad 3 was a male model talking in an indoor environment. So talking like in their room or something, going over, let's say like a star ring, and their hook was TikTok made me buy it. These are all different variables that you want to start to test and find better winning variations. So Facebook has deemed this as a winning creative, pushing more spend to it. Let's say it's profitable. We scale it out into its own CBO of scaling, where we'll put all of our scaling and winning creatives in, as well as we'll start to get more creatives and start to test different variables similar to this winning ad. So it's a male model talking in a room about a star ring, mentioning in the first 3 seconds that TikTok made me buy it. What we'll then want to do is maybe test a different model. So now what we're going to do is test a different model, maybe a female model, a different model, but using the same script or using the same hook and using the same star ring that they're talking about. That, and then split test all of those different variations into a new CBO where we'll pretty much segment those down into the different variables that we're testing. So, you know, maybe testing that variable or maybe adjusting the setting that first person in ad 3, the initial winning one, is talking in. That's another variable that you can kind of split test. Maybe use the same model, the same background, the same script and hook, just change the product that they're talking about. Or an easy one, pretty much changing the hook the first 3 seconds and maintaining the rest of the script and the product and the setting that they're talking in. I mean, these are all just kind of like concepts and ideas, but the goal is to really just segment things down and find what the true winning variables and elements are of an ad. That way you can scale it out. The reason why a lot of people skip over this is because it takes a lot of work to do this. A lot of people just want to find one winning creative and try to push more spend on that because because it's easier, but to build a right foundation and find what's actually a true winner, this is exactly what you have to do to find those true winning ads and make sure that your scaling budget pretty much upholds. So that is exactly how we are compartmentalizing and hyper segmenting, trying to find winning creatives for our higher level spending accounts. But if you are a brand owner, feel free to implement this on your own. But if you're looking to kind of pass this off to someone else and focus on other aspects of the brand, feel free to apply first link in the bio. We've spent millions doing this exact strategy and helped multiple brands surpass 100K per month. So like I said, if you're stuck at 30, 50, 80K per month and you want to surpass 100K per month, feel free to apply first link in the bio. With that being said, now that you kind of understand how to organize and optimize your creatives, the real question is, once you do find those winners, how do you know which one is worth scaling? Okay, I know a lot of you business owners are watching this, and I know that you guys have probably tried to deploy ad spend. Maybe you've seen some winning life in the ad account and you instantly try to scale it up only to see that you're just burning ad spend and wasting and throwing away money. I only know that because I was doing that when I first started running ads. And the biggest thing that nobody really tells you is that just because an ad may seem good on the surface level doesn't necessarily mean that it's good and it's going to uphold and scale. That's why you need to look at the foundations and figure out whether or not this is going to be something that's worth scaling and worth not. There's going to be a few metrics that allow you to make that data back decision. So what exactly are those metrics that you want to look for? Well, first off, the thing that you need to do is separate your engagement metrics from your sales metrics and kind of cross-reference the two. What a lot of people struggle with is just looking at the engagement metrics and considering that a winner and then try to scale that out and in return crash and burn. Whereas you need to be looking at both and kind of making decisions based off of what both have to say. So how do you know what metrics to look at? The first ones that I mentioned, the engagement metrics, would be CPC, unique click-through rate, hook rate, hold rate. Those four are some of the stronger engagement ones that kind of tell you whether or not this ad is engaging. For CPC, generalized e-com, depending on the product and niche, $1 or less than $1 is considered like healthy for e-com in terms of CPC. Unique click-through rate would be 1 to 1.5% is average. Anything above 2% is considered strong. For hook rate, 25 to 35% is average, considered good, but 40% plus is great. What exactly is hook rate? Hook rate is the first 3 seconds that someone's watching the video divided by the amount of impressions, and that's going to tell you how good your hook is and what percentage of people are sticking around after that hook. Now those are engagement metrics. Now if you see good engagement metrics, that's awesome, but now you need to see exactly what's getting us returns, and those other metrics would be ROAS, CPA, AOV, CVR, MER. Those are like 5 different metrics I'd look at. So for cost per acquisition, you want to be anywhere around 30 to 40% of your AOV or less. AOV is obviously your average order value. How much per order is the customer ordering on average? Like what's the dollar amount that a customer is ordering per order on average? For ROAS, this really depends on your product margins, but we as an agency like to be around closer to a 3x just because this gives us a lot more wiggle room when we start to scale up. And then for conversion rate, you want to aim for around, on the actual ads manager, aim for around a 2 to 4% on cold traffic. But yeah, like I mentioned, these are all different metrics that you want to look at and cross-reference and go against each other to make sure that what you're going to scale out is going to be a good creative that's going to uphold at scale. A lot of people will take a creative that has a really good ROAS but doesn't have a good click-through rate, and because it has a good ROAS, they think it's good to scale, and then they push it out to a bigger pool of people and it just doesn't uphold. And that's typically what goes down when someone's scaling out the wrong type of creative. And I know a lot of this can be a lot if you are a business owner already running your business and maintaining other different departments of your brand or business. So if you do want to work with our agency and you want to take your 30 to 80K per month brand to over 100K per month, feel free to click the top link in the description to learn more. We've scaled multiple brands to over 100K per month with millions in ad spend and would love to do the same for you. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again.